Here is the ebook, What is SEO Writing? The Complete Guide to Writing for Search. Courtney Meyer designs the ebooks, and she did a great job of laying this out in a really user-friendly, nice way with this cute mustachioed man right here. He begins with a pretty brief introduction explaining exactly what SEO writing is, and this is where he takes that featured snippet direction and implements it, targeting what is SEO writing and then explaining really succinctly exactly what it is. This is one of my favorite parts of the ebook, Key SEO Terms Defined. He goes through 19 different SEO terms and explains exactly what they mean. I think this is a great resource anytime you have to explain something that someone who maybe isn't as well versed in SEO should know, but isn't fully aware of what it is. This is a great kind of short SEO dictionary talking about click-through rate, meta descriptions, organic traffic, and then going into, the schema and page views versus page views per session, page and domain authority. He does a great job of explaining what each of these things are really succinctly. SEO writing, of course, is a process that begins with a goal. Knowing your end goal is important for creating a well thought out plan to reach it. And he begins just at the top explaining the common metrics that you might want to measure and aim for, and then being able to just jump into your content from there. SERP presentation has become an important part of SEO writing just because there are so many different features that show up on Google now. It's not just this type of result, this kind of plain text result, but there's also lists and tables and images and videos and what have you, that you can all aim your content to be presented like that, but it's difficult to do that. So knowing how to target different featured snippets, it's become an important part of SEO writing in general. And he points this out, if you are going to stand out from the competition, you need to know what the SERP looks like for the keywords that you're targeting. And just to go into more detail on that, we have listed out the different types of featured snippets that you will most likely find in a Google search, understanding how these look, understanding how they're sourced. Those are all important for targeting your content towards them. These are all things that people have seen, but maybe they're not top of mind when you are writing, like aiming towards the people also ask, or the local 3-pack, or even the knowledge graph that it's so common now, Ranking factors are, of course, something that writers and strategists are always thinking about, but it's important to be able to define them to anyone that you're writing for. So he goes through and defines exactly what to think about when you're thinking about these top 10 types of ranking factors. Going through into keyword writing, the actual writing of your piece. Keyword density used to be a very important ranking factor, and it's still something to keep in mind, but there is a fine line between properly using your keyword and keyword stuffing. Of course, you need to structure your content around a particular keyword, but it's important to also have supporting keywords and not just think about the keyword, but the broader topic, and understanding how a person will approach that topic, understanding what types of follow-up questions a person might have when they are looking for answers about a particular problem that they're having, understanding how you can think ahead and get out in front of those from the very outset. In this section, he lists out 12 different SEO writing tips. I thought this was a really neat way to succinctly explain how to do SEO writing. I think a lot of it could potentially be helpful in talking to clients about different themes or how to structure their content. For example, write for as long as it takes to comprehensively cover a topic rather than aiming for an arbitrary word count, or internally linking only where it's relevant, not just all over the place whenever you have a keyword that you are targeting somewhere else in your strategy. I think these could be really helpful in any time you're talking to clients about like their content strategy or their direction. SEO writing, of course, goes far beyond the writing itself and into the technical SEO part of it as well. So we dive into use of title tags and meta descriptions and alt text, exactly what those are, but then also how to use those for the benefit of your content and allowing Google to understand, or other search engines understand, what exactly it is you're talking about in your article. And of course, that technical SEO goes beyond just the metadata and the things that are behind the scenes, but also into the structure of your content as well, which is where things like H1 titles and H2 come into play. Understanding how to properly use these can either make your content really clear and legible, or make it confusing and make it difficult for a search engine or a web crawler to understand the core points. So knowing how and where to use an H1 versus an H2, or even an H3. You don't typically see H4 or much less H7 very often, but understanding how to use those properly can really add some helpful structure to your content overall. One thing that I think we've gotten really good at Brafton, especially on the marketing team, but also with clients as well, is the concept of ReOptimisation, taking an existing piece of content and improving it. Being able to make your existing content better, it can be a lot more helpful than starting from scratch each time. There's a lot of reasons to re-optimize your content. Perhaps, you skipped over some concepts when you initially wrote it, or maybe trends around a certain topic have changed since you published a piece of content. New findings came out, or there are new trends, a new important information that needs to be included. Or you just go back and you realize that you can structure it differently or include an additional piece of helpful information. Understanding where you are beginning from can help you improve your piece so that it is performing better. And of course, there's always the possibility that someone is writing an article about a topic that you have covered, but they are structuring it in a more clear way, or they are including additional content that you haven't thought of. Going back and looking at what you have and adding to it, constantly improving it, can almost always benefit. And one of the caveats of SEO is, of course, it takes time for it to really become effective, for the things that you put into place to really take hold. It's easy to want it to happen right away, but of course it just doesn't work like that. We found that it takes at least 100 days for content to fully mature. By that we mean it takes about 100 days for your content to be definitively ranked on Google. Prior to that, you'll probably see a lot of fluctuations, just depending on different behavioral signals and things like that. After that first 100 days, which is quite a long time if you think about it, it's more than 3 months. After that, Google can tell how your content performs, how people respond to it, and just based on those different ranking signals, you will begin to see a little bit more stability in your positioning. And from there, you can make your judgments on how to use that content and improve it.